North Dakota State University is going to be going north on I-29, and they're going to be taking on the University of North Dakota. One of their champions, one of their individuals that, he's on a championship team, and he was a center. I refereed him, and he never held. Never once held, is Mac Schneider, former leader when it came to North Dakota Senate. So, Mac, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Joel, thanks for having me on. It's exciting to talk about the next chapter of this rivalry.
Isn't it nice to not be talking about what's happening in the legislature and be talking about football? Huh?
Both are important, but one is a little bit more enjoyable. Exactly. Nothing I like more than talking about football.
Fair enough. Now, I don't want people to miss the opportunity to see, even if you got to move that camera a little bit, I want them to see that helmet over your right shoulder. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. When you decided to go to the University of North Dakota and play football there, was it an easy choice? Why UND?
Well, that was back in the late 90s, and I was, offered a walk-on slot at both schools, so neither one of them were competing too hard to get me, Joel. But I was really attracted to the way that Coach Thomas at the time ran the program. I thought he was just an absolute class act, and his players were that way as well. And they had success on the field with that approach, and it sure was a good decision. It really, meant a lot to me personally. Met some of my best friends, being able to play football at the University of North Dakota, and just, couldn't ask for a better education, a better experience on the field.
Well, I know where the Schneider family, just like the Heitkamp family, went to school. And had you gone to NDSU, I'm not sure you would have been invited for Christmas. They would have loved you. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure you would have been welcome at every house that the Schneider family has.
Like most North Dakota families, we've got UND graduates, we've got NDSU graduates. Some are graduates of both. And that's what makes this rivalry so exciting, is that it's kind of a family rivalry too. My wife, as you know, Joel, is a 10-time All-American track athlete at NDSU. So it's a balanced marriage from that perspective.
Do you sit in different rooms when the game's on, or are you heading up to the game?
We are heading up. I'm heading up this afternoon. I'm going to be going to the Hall of Fame banquet tonight. My late teammate Travis O'Neill is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Passed away a number of years ago, but should be a pretty special evening having his teammates there, and just really excited for the game tomorrow. Seeing them match up again in the Missouri Valley Conference for the second time is just going to be something that the fans and the players and the old guys like me are really going to enjoy.
Well, if you're an old guy, then I'm ancient. But, I watched you play as close up as I could possibly have. I mean, I was an umpire on the college crew that refereed you. And so people don't see football from that perspective. I've been trying to train in my wife, my daughters, my son-in-laws, for that matter, to watch line play when they're watching the Vikings play. I mean, when the Packers dominated last week, I was showing them what Billy Turner was doing, and so it's like you're anonymous at times. Was that frustrating, or quite frankly, was it actually a good thing?
Well, you're anonymous until you give up a sack. Then everybody seems to be focused in pretty acutely. But it is, to me, the most important position on the field, that offensive line and defensive line. And it's going to be important in the game this week too. The Bison, they've outrushed opponents 1,045 yards to 130. So they've been able to establish the run. The question is, can UND sort of, get in their fits on defense and take down that ratio a bit. And so I think this is a game that's going to be won or lost in the trenches like so many are.
So I just appointed you coach of the University of North Dakota. Bubba Schweigert, I love the guy, but he's going to sit on the sidelines for this game because Mac Schneider's got the keys. You're in the locker room with that team. You're an underdog. You're playing against a team that won, 7 of the last 8 national championships, or 8 of the last 9. You know what I'm getting at. I mean, what do you tell that team before they come out on that Alaris field?
Well, you have to have that underdog mentality. I mean, even when you're playing at home and the vast majority of those 12,000 fans are cheering you on, you're the underdog going into this game. There's no taking away the success of NDSU over the last decade. And as a UND fan, it's been a tough decade to bear. But I think Coach Schweiger is going to emphasize establishing the run. getting Otis Weah going. He didn't play against Drake. That's sort of shrouded in mystery. Is he motivated out there and show his teammates what he can do now that he's back on the field? UND has a young interior offensive line. I think giving those guys some confidence by calling some run plays out of the gate, I think is going to be very important. And then just keeping the crowd in this game for all 4 quarters. UND's done pretty well against tough teams like Utah State. They actually ended up, going to the game at halftime sort of in control, and then it kind of faltered in the 3rd and 4th quarter. So, Coach Schweiger, it's going to be, urging the guys to just stick in there and make sure you dominate that 4th quarter, because that's where this game's going to come down, in my opinion.
The one thing that Jack Michaels and I were talking about today, and of course Jack, the voice of the University of North Dakota, is turnovers. That the University of North Dakota cannot afford to have turnovers. When you're an underdog, you can't leave the ball on the ground, and I'm curious what your take is on that.
Absolutely. They're going to have to play a perfect game. This is a very talented Bison team. They're experienced. They've got some exciting new players. And to give up fumbles early or throw costly interceptions, that's just something that's absolutely going to take the wind out of the sails of the crowd, leave the players in a bad spot psychologically. And so, really controlling the ball, taking time off the clock, and like you said, Joel, not having any turnovers, that's what it's going to take to stay in this game.
What was it like the night before you played NDSU? I mean, what was that like? Because every game has to be a little bit different, and that you grew up as a little kid. You knew what that Fighting Sioux Bison game was all about when you were young. What is it like the night before?
It's a feeling you never forget. I mean, you can't take your mind off of it. I remember, being down in the Fargo Dome in 2000, the night before the game, trying to watch some nature shows on Discovery Channel just to sort of think about something else. But the feeling of excitement is there. It's there for all these players. They're probably not going to have an easy time getting to sleep tonight. But the real prize is kind of the Christmas morning type feeling you have when you wake up and it's game day. And so I really happy for those players and excited for them to experience that tomorrow.
Just so people know, in your time, what was your record? How did you do against NDSU?
Well, the 3 games I played in, we won 2 of those, and of my 5 years at UND, we won 4 of those 5. So not bad.
I knew that. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to say that. I want to go back to the game you lost, though. Okay, how do you go from here down to here and still know you got to play football in 7 days? I mean, what happens to the emotional side of it when the biggest game that you're probably going to play that year, you didn't win?
Well, that's the great thing about this conference is that, win or lose against NDSU, you've got a strong conference opponent coming in, week out. There's no days off when it comes to Missouri Valley football. And so you just got to take Coach Lennon back in our day had a 24-hour rule where you enjoy it or you break it down and then you move on to the next opponent. And certainly Coach Schweigert is continued with that mentality. And because you're right, I mean, win or lose this football game, both teams, they have a really difficult Missouri Valley schedule to follow, and anything could happen. I mean, any SDSU could beat NDSU or vice versa, and any given Saturday, you never know what's going to happen in the Missouri Valley. So you have to move on for better or worse.
So at this phase of the season, Mac, what's practice like? Is there still hitting going on? Are we talking about a lot of time in the film room? Are we talking about, just dry running? What are you doing in a practice leading up to this week?
Well, coaches are great about routines. And, typically Mondays you have off, Sundays, the day after the game, you break down the film. Tuesday, Wednesday, you might do a little live. Thursday, kind of pare back a little bit, and then just the walkthrough on Friday. And even though coaches stress the importance of routine, there is something special about this week. That the best team in the country over the last decade is going to board a couple of buses and drive an hour and 15 minutes north to get to Grand Forks. So, I'm sure, while they went through the sort of normal rounds and normal rhythms of practice this week, there's a little bit more intensity knowing who's coming to town on Saturday.
So I want to go just one other way real quick before I know you got to go, which is to have a game like this. It's a perfect time to bring a lot of alumni back and get a chance to visit. You mentioned, friends going into the Hall of Fame and everything else. What's the party side of this, Mac? What's tonight going to look like? What's tomorrow going to look like?
Moderation, exclusively, Joel. Moderation. No, it's going to be so much fun. I've got a good friend, Dave Butler, who was the starting right guard in the national championship team. He's flying in from Washington, D.C. I'm going to meet up with a couple of my old roommates here tonight. The 2001 team has a tailgating spot. My old teammate, Jesse Smith, his parents are going to be cooking on the grill. It is going to be just one of those banner weekends in Grand Forks. And if UND pulls this thing off, the town is going to be just on fire.
Yeah.
And I hope to be there for that.
Mac, first off, thanks for coming on. Second off, congratulations. And third, it's good to have the game back. So appreciate you coming down the road with us.